The morning I discovered my wife was screwing around, I was fixing our porch light with a hangover that felt like someone had used my skull for batting practice. Typical Tuesday in paradise, right? But what I heard through our kitchen window made me forget all about the throbbing in my head and the loose wire sparking in my hands. Erin was laughing. Not the polite chuckle she gave me when I told dad jokes, but that throaty, genuine laugh I hadn't heard in months. The one that used to make my chest tight in all the right ways. "I can't wait to see you tonight," she purred into her phone. "Tell me again what you're going to do to me." I nearly fell off the damn ladder. My name is Jake Morrison, and up until that moment, I thought I had a pretty good handle on my life. 42 years old, owner of Morrison Security Consulting, a fancy name for a one-man operation that installs alarm systems and does background checks for local businesses. Not glamorous, but it paid the bills and kept our daughter Sophie in her expensive private school. Erin, my wife of 18 years, had recently been promoted to project manager at TechFlow Solutions, one of those sleek software companies that sprouted up in our little New England city like mushrooms after rain. She'd been working late a lot, coming home with stories about demanding clients and impossible deadlines. I'd been supportive, understanding, the perfect husband. What a damn fool I was. I crept closer to the window, my work boots silent on the wet grass. The October storm from the night before had left everything slick and gray, matching my sudden mood perfectly. "Aiden, you're terrible," Erin giggled. "What if Jake finds out?" Aiden. I knew that name. Aiden Blackwood, the golden boy entrepreneur who'd moved to town 6 months ago with his Tesla and his venture capital money, buying up waterfront property and throwing parties that made the local newspaper's society page. "He won't," came the reply, loud enough for me to hear through her phone. "Your husband's too busy playing with his little gadgets to notice what's happening right under his nose." My hands clenched around the ladder. Little gadgets. Right. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. "I should go," Erin said. "I'll tell him I have another business trip this weekend. We can have the whole night at your place. Can't wait to have you in my bed again, beautiful." The call ended, and I heard Erin's footsteps heading toward the front door. I scrambled back to my ladder, grabbing my tools and trying to look like I'd been working the whole time. "Morning, honey," Erin said, stepping onto the porch. She looked perfect as always. Shoulder-length auburn hair, green eyes, that smile that had made me propose after 6 months of dating. "How's the light coming along?" "Just peachy," I managed, not trusting myself to look at her directly. "Should have it fixed soon." "Great. I'm heading to work early today. Big presentation." She kissed my cheek, and I caught a whiff of expensive perfume. When had she started wearing perfume to work? "Oh, and I might have to travel this weekend. Client emergency." "Sure thing." The words tasted like ash. She drove off in her Honda Civic, leaving me alone with my thoughts and the sparking wire that suddenly seemed like the least of my problems. I finished the repair in a haze, my mind spinning. 18 years, 18 damn years of marriage, and she was throwing it all away for some handsome guy with more money than brains. The worst part? She thought I was too dumb to notice. Maybe she was right. How long had this been going on? How many business trips and late nights had I swallowed without question? I was still standing there, staring at nothing, when our neighbor Mrs. Bell appeared at her fence. Eleanor Bell was 73, widowed, and had made gossip into an art form. "Morning, Jake," she called out, her voice artificially sweet. "Saw Erin leave early again. She's been so busy lately." "Yeah, work's been crazy for her." Mrs. Bell's eyes gleamed. "I'm sure it has. Saw her at Marino's last week with that handsome young man, the one with the fancy car. They looked very professional." Marino's was the upscale Italian place downtown. Erin had told me she was working late that night. "Thanks for letting me know," I said, my voice steady despite the rage building in my chest. "Of course, dear. We neighbors have to look out for each other." I went inside and made coffee with shaking hands. The house felt different now, like a stage set for a play I'd been unknowingly performing in. The family photos on the mantel, our wedding day, Sophie's graduation from middle school, last year's vacation to Cape Cod, all of it felt like lies. My phone buzzed. A text from Ray Martinez, my old army buddy, who ran the MMA gym where I worked out 3 times a week. "Sparring session tonight? You looked like you needed to hit something last time." Ray always could read people. Yeah, I needed to hit something, all right. I was about to reply when I heard the front door slam. Sophie burst in, her private school uniform wrinkled, her backpack hitting the floor with a thud. "Dad? Where's Mom?" she demanded. "Work. Why?" Sophie rolled her eyes. At 17, she'd perfected the art of making me feel like an idiot with just a look. Because I need her to sign my permission slip for the senior trip, and she's never here anymore. "I can sign it." "No, it has to be Mom. She's the one with the real job." The words hit like a slap. "Excuse me?" "Come on, Dad, you fix alarm systems. Mom's actually doing something important." Sophie grabbed a granola bar from the kitchen counter. "Besides, if you weren't so, I don't know, boring, maybe Mom wouldn't need to find excitement somewhere else." A chill ran through me. "What did you say?" Sophie's face went pale. She'd said too much, and she knew it. "Nothing. I didn't mean... How long have you known?" She looked everywhere but at me. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Sophie." "Fine," she exploded. "Everyone knows, okay? Kids at school, their parents, everyone. Mom's been seen around town with that Blackwood guy. People talk, Dad. They say you're pathetic for not noticing." Each word was a knife twist. My own daughter thought I was pathetic. "And you didn't think to tell me?" What was I supposed to say? "Hey, Dad, Mom's cheating on you?" I kept hoping it would just stop. Tears started flowing down her cheeks. "I hate this. I hate all of this." She ran upstairs, leaving me alone in the kitchen with my cold coffee and the wreckage of my perfect life. I sat there for a long time, thinking. Then I went to my office and pulled out my laptop. If there's one thing you learn in the security business, it's how to find information people don't want found. Aiden Blackwood had quite the digital footprint. Social media accounts, business profiles, local news articles about his real estate investments. 34 years old, divorced, originally from Boston. Made his money in tech startups before moving to our little city to invest in emerging markets. What a philanthropist. I dug deeper, using some of the background check tools I used for work. Clean credit, no criminal record, but plenty of photos on Instagram and Facebook, including several recent ones at local restaurants and events with my wife. There they were, cozy in a corner booth at Marino's. Erin laughing at something he'd said, her hand on his arm. Another at the Harbor Festival last month, standing close together while fireworks exploded overhead. I'd been working that night, installing a security system for a new client. How convenient. The final straw came when I checked Erin's iPad, which she'd left on the kitchen counter. I knew her password, Sophie's birthday, and felt only a moment's guilt before opening her messages. The texts between her and Aiden went back 3 months. Explicit, detailed, leaving nothing to imagination. Plans for secret meetings, complaints about her boring husband, promises of what they'd do when they could finally be together. One message made me see red. "Jake's so clueless. I could probably bring you home for dinner and he'd just ask about your business." I screenshot everything, emailed the files to myself, then carefully deleted the evidence of my snooping. My hands were steady now, my mind clear. The shock was wearing off, replaced by something colder and more focused. I'd been the fool in my own house for months, but every fool gets his day. The charity gala was supposed to be our night. Erin had bought a new dress, black, elegant, expensive. She'd spent 2 hours getting ready, humming while she did her makeup. I'd even complimented her, like the dutiful husband I was pretending to be. What I didn't expect was for her to walk in with Aiden Blackwood on her arm. "Jake, I'd like you to meet Aiden," she said, her voice bright with fake innocence. "He's my new business partner on the Morrison account." Morrison account. She'd named it after me. The balls on this woman. Aiden extended his hand with a smile that probably cost more than my truck. "Great to finally meet you, Jake. Erin talks about you all the time." I shook his hand, squeezing just hard enough to make him wince. "I bet she does." He was everything I wasn't. Tall, lean, with the kind of effortless style that comes from money and personal trainers. His watch probably cost more than I made in 6 months. "Aiden's been such a help with the new client integration software," Erin gushed. "We've been working so closely together." "I'm sure you have." The ballroom of the Riverside Hotel was packed with the city's social elite, all gathered to raise money for the Children's Hospital. I'd been to these events before, usually standing awkwardly by the bar while Erin networked. Tonight felt different. Tonight I was watching my wife parade her lover around like a prize bull. "I'm going to get drinks," I announced. "Erin, the usual?" "Actually, Aiden already got me one. Thanks though, honey." Honey. She called me honey while her boyfriend stood right there, probably thinking about how he'd had his hands all over her the night before. At the bar, I ordered a double whiskey and tried to process what was happening. The sheer audacity of it was breathtaking. She wasn't just cheating, she was flaunting it, confident that I was too stupid or too weak to do anything about it. Quite the pair, aren't they? I turned to find Catherine Walsh sliding up next to me. Kat was Erin's best friend from college, a divorce attorney with a reputation for taking no prisoners. She was also the kind of woman who collected secrets like some people collected stamps. "What do you mean?" I asked. Kat ordered a martini, her dark eyes never leaving mine. "Come on, Jake. You're not blind. Everyone can see the chemistry between them. They're business partners." "Sure they are." She sipped her drink. "You know, I've been wondering when you'd finally notice. Erin said you were completely oblivious, but I gave you more credit than that." The whiskey burned going down. "Erin said what?" "Oh, honey." Kat's smile was sharp as a blade. "Everyone knows. The whole office knows. Half the town knows. The only question was how long it would take you to catch on." I wanted to grab her by the throat and demand details, but we were surrounded by people. Instead, I forced a smile. "I have no idea what you're talking about." "Of course you don't." She patted my arm condescendingly. "Just remember, Jake, when this all comes out, and it will, you'll need a good lawyer. I know several who specialize in cases where the husband gets blindsided." She walked away, leaving me at the bar with my rage and my whiskey. I watched Erin and Aiden work the room together, her hand constantly on his arm, his fingers occasionally brushing her back. They looked like a couple. They acted like a couple. And everyone in the room could see it except the pathetic husband nursing his drink at the bar. My phone buzzed. A text from Sophie. "Dad, staying at Emma's tonight. Can't deal with the fake happy family thing right now." Even my daughter was abandoning ship. I was about to leave when Mayor Patterson took the stage for his annual speech about community and giving back. Standard political bullshit, but it gave me an idea. I made my way through the crowd, weaving between guests and politely excusing myself until I found myself standing behind Aiden and Erin. They were leaning in, whispering to each other in that way people do when they think no one's watching. Erin's lipstick was slightly smudged at the corners, making her look even more disheveled than I'm sure she intended. Classy. The conversation between them seemed intimate, too casual for a public event like this, and I couldn't help but notice how she smiled at him, her body language betraying her comfort with him. Every little gesture, every whispered word felt like a slap in the face, It was all I could do to keep from marching right over and confronting them. But I had a plan, and I wasn't going to rush it. Then the mayor stood up, raising his glass, signaling for everyone to join him in a toast. That was my moment. I stepped forward, just enough to be seen, and let the chaos unfold. "Oops," I said, feigning clumsiness as I bumped into Aiden. The impact was just enough to send his wine splashing across his expensive suit jacket, the red liquid staining the fabric with an unmistakable mark. "What the hell?" Aiden snarled, spinning around with a furious look on his face. "So sorry," I said loudly, making sure my voice carried so that nearby guests could hear. "How clumsy of me. Here, let me help." I grabbed a napkin from the nearby bar and began dabbing at the stain, pressing it into his jacket a little harder than necessary, forcing him to take a step back. I could feel his body tense as I moved deliberately, making sure the stain spread, the once spotless jacket ruined. "Don't," he hissed, voice dripping with irritation. "You're making it worse." "Just trying to help," I said, keeping my tone innocent and sweet. "Accidents happen, right? Sometimes when you're not paying attention, things get messy." Erin, her face flushed with embarrassment, grabbed my arm, her grip tight. "Jake, what's wrong with you?" she demanded, her voice a mix of frustration and confusion. I let out a soft chuckle. "Nothing's wrong, Erin. Just a little accident, that's all." I made sure she heard the sarcasm in my voice, knowing it would hit harder than anything else. Aiden's eyes narrowed, his frustration clear. He got the message. I could see it in his eyes. There was no escaping this. "I need to clean this up," he muttered through clenched teeth, turning toward the restrooms. "Of course," I said with a grin, making sure to give him just enough space to feel the weight of my presence. I followed him, my footsteps slow but deliberate. The men's room was empty, just the two of us standing there. Aiden was bent over the sink, scrubbing at the stain on his jacket with a handful of paper towels. His face was flushed with anger, his movements sharp and hurried, trying to salvage the situation. But the damage was done. "That wasn't an accident," Aiden said, still not looking at me, his voice cold and low. "No, it wasn't," I replied, my voice just as cold. I took a step closer, my presence making him tense even more. He straightened up, finally meeting my eyes in the mirror. "You want to say something to me, Morrison?" His voice was a mix of challenge and anger, his jaw clenched tightly. I stepped forward, closing the distance between us. "Just one thing," I said, my voice calm but with an edge. "I know who you are, Aiden, and I know what you're doing. You think you're clever, but you're not. You're just another rich boy playing with someone else's toys." His expression hardened, but he didn't say anything, waiting for me to continue. "Your little game with Erin, it's not going to end how you think. You're not going to win this. You're just another entitled man who's gotten used to taking what isn't his." Aiden's eyes narrowed. He wanted to say something, but I could see the anger and realization slowly sinking in. "You think you can scare me, Morrison?" he said, his voice lower now, full of menace. "Your wife isn't a toy. She's a woman who deserves better than what she's getting at home." The urge to smash my fist into his perfect, smug face was overwhelming. Every ounce of restraint I had fought the impulse. Instead, I smiled, a smile so cold it could freeze the room. "You'll see," I said quietly, turning on my heel and walking out of the bathroom, leaving Aiden to stare at his reflection, undoubtedly seeing more than just the wine stain on his jacket. "Here's what's going to happen, Aiden. You're going to stop seeing my wife. You're going to transfer whatever business you have with her company to someone else. And you're going to stay the hell away from my family." He laughed. Actually laughed. "Or what? You'll install a security camera in my bedroom? Face it, Morrison. You've already lost. Erin's with me because I can give her things you never could. Money, excitement, a future that doesn't involve fixing broken locks for a living. You don't know anything about me." I know enough. I know you're a small-town nobody who got lucky 18 years ago when a beautiful woman settled for less than she deserved. But she's not settling anymore. He pushed past me toward the door, then stopped. Oh, and Jake? Next time you want to threaten me, remember that I have lawyers on retainer who eat guys like you for breakfast. Come near me again, and I'll bury you. He left me standing there, hands shaking with rage. I stayed in the bathroom for 5 minutes, splashing cold water on my face and fighting the urge to punch the mirror. When I finally came out, Erin was waiting in the hallway. "What did you say to him?" she demanded. "Just making conversation." "Don't lie to me, Jake. He's upset, and people are starting to notice." "People are already noticing, Erin. Trust me on that." Her face went pale. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means your business partner isn't as discreet as you think he is." For a moment, I saw fear flicker across her features. Then the mask slipped back into place. "I don't know what you think you know, but you're embarrassing yourself, and me. Wouldn't want to embarrass you, honey. Not in front of your colleague." She stared at me for a long moment, probably trying to figure out how much I knew. Then she turned and walked back into the ballroom, leaving me alone in the hallway. I left the gala early, claiming a headache. On the drive home, I called Ray. "Need that sparring session tonight?" he asked. "More than you know." "Gym's closed, but I'll meet you there in an hour. Bring your gear." Ray Martinez was the kind of friend everyone should have. Loyal, honest, and completely without bullshit. He'd saved my life in Afghanistan, and I'd returned the favor. We'd been through hell together, which made him one of the few people I trusted completely. The gym was dark when I arrived, but Ray's truck was already in the parking lot. I found him in the main training area, wrapping his hands. "You look like shit," he said without preamble. "Feel worse." "Want to talk about it or just hit things?" "Both." I told him everything while we warmed up, the phone call, the text, the gala, all of it. Ray listened without interrupting, his face growing darker with each detail. "So what's the plan?" he asked when I finished. "Plan? Come on, Morrison. I've seen that look before. You had the same expression right before you took out that Taliban sniper who'd been picking off our guys for a week. You're not just going to roll over and take this." He was right. The old Jake, the trusting husband and father, was gone. In his place was someone colder, someone who'd learned in the desert that sometimes you had to fight dirty to survive. "I need to be smart about this," I said, pulling on my gloves. "She thinks I'm an idiot. Let her keep thinking that while I figure out how to make them both pay." "What do you need?" "Information, dirt, anything I can use to destroy them both without ending up in jail." Ray grinned, and for a moment he looked like the 25-year-old sergeant who'd helped me clear buildings in Kandahar. "Now you're talking. Let's work out some of that anger first, then we'll make a plan." We spent the next 2 hours pounding on heavy bags and each other. By the time we were done, my knuckles were bruised and my mind was clear. Erin was asleep when I got home, or pretending to be. I lay in bed next to her, listening to her breathe, and started planning her destruction. She wanted to play games? Fine. But she was about to learn that her boring husband knew a few games of his own. The next morning, Erin was gone before I woke up. She'd left a note on the kitchen counter. "Early meeting, don't wait up tonight. E. Not even love E anymore." The pretense was crumbling. I made coffee and opened my laptop. If I was going to war, I needed intelligence. Fortunately, 18 years in the security business had taught me a few things about surveillance and information gathering. First stop, social media. I created a fake Facebook account using stock photos and a generic name, Tom Bradley, insurance adjuster from Springfield. Close enough to be believable, far enough away to avoid suspicion. Within an hour, I'd sent friend requests to half of Erin's co-workers and several people from Aiden's social circle. People are surprisingly careless about accepting requests from strangers, especially if you have mutual friends and a professional-looking profile. The intelligence started flowing immediately. Aiden's Instagram was a masterclass in narcissistic oversharing. Photos of his Tesla, his waterfront house, expensive dinners at restaurants I couldn't afford. And there, mixed in with the lifestyle porn, were subtle hints of his relationship with my wife. A photo of 2 wine glasses at Marino's, captioned, "Perfect evening with a perfect woman." A sunset view from his deck with, "Great company makes everything better." Nothing explicit enough to be evidence in court, but clear enough for anyone paying attention. The comments were even more revealing. His friends knew. They were making jokes about his mystery woman and asking when they'd get to meet her officially. I screenshot everything. Next, I dove into Erin's social media. She was more careful, but not careful enough. Her check-ins told a story of late nights at restaurants she'd never mentioned to me, weekend trips she'd claimed were work-related, and a gradual change in her friend group. The real goldmine was LinkedIn. Erin had been tagged in several TechFlow company events over the past 3 months. In the group photos, she was always standing next to Aiden, always smiling a little too brightly. But it was the comments on these posts that really got under my skin. "Power couple alert," one of her co-workers had written, clearly oblivious to the storm it was stirring inside me. "You two make such a great team," said another, oblivious to the fact that I was no longer part of that team, nor would I ever be again. "When's the wedding?" joked a third, followed by laughing emojis, as if everything was just a playful game. They weren't even trying to hide it anymore. The public display of affection, the way they flaunted it on social media like I didn't exist, like I was invisible. My phone rang. It was Ray. "How's the intelligence gathering going?" he asked, his voice steady but with a hint of expectation. "Better than expected," I replied, my fists clenching involuntarily as I stared at the screen. "They're not as smart as they think they are." "Good. Listen, I've got something for you," Ray continued, his tone shifting as he got to the point. "Remember my cousin Maria? She works at the bank downtown." "Yeah, I remember. What about her?" "She processed a loan application for your boy Blackwood last month. Seems his cash flow isn't as healthy as he pretends. The Tesla's leased, the house has a massive mortgage, and he's been moving money around to cover his ass." Interesting. The golden boy was living on credit. I couldn't hide my smile, even though I hated myself for it. "Go on." "There's more," Ray added, his voice lowering as if sharing something even more juicy. "Maria says he's been asking about local property values, specifically in the school district where you live. Sounds like someone's planning a future with your wife." "Over my body," I muttered under my breath, my mind already racing with possibilities. "That's what I figured you'd say," Ray said. "What's the next move?" "I need to get inside his house," I said, the plan forming quickly in my mind. "See what kind of security he has. Maybe plant some surveillance equipment. I need to know everything." "Breaking and entering? That's a felony, brother." "Not if I'm invited," I shot back, a wicked grin creeping onto my face. Ray was silent for a moment, probably processing the boldness of my plan. "All right. I'll see what I can do to get you that invite." "Appreciate it, Ray. Let me know as soon as you have something." We ended the call, and I spent the rest of the morning crafting a plan. Aiden Blackwood, with all his polished arrogance and charisma, was about to discover that the boring husband he'd dismissed so easily was full of surprises. It wasn't just about the money or the house anymore. It was about making sure he knew that he'd crossed the wrong person. This was no longer about playing by the rules. It was time to remind them both who they were really dealing with. That afternoon, I drove to his neighborhood, an exclusive development called Harbor View Estates. His house sat on a bluff overlooking the water, all glass and steel angles designed to impress. The Tesla was in the driveway, along with a black BMW that I didn't recognize. I parked down the street and waited. Patience was another skill the Army had taught me. After 20 minutes, Aiden emerged with a woman I didn't recognize, tall, blonde, wearing workout clothes that probably cost more than most people's rent. Not Erin. Apparently, my wife wasn't his only side piece. They drove off in the BMW, giving me the opening I needed. I walked up to his front door like I belonged there and rang the bell. When no one answered, I pulled out my phone and called the number from his business website. Aiden Blackwood. Mr. Blackwood, this is Jake Morrison from Morrison Security Consulting. I'm in your neighborhood doing security assessments, and several of your neighbors have expressed concerns about break-ins in the area. I'm not interested. I understand, sir, but I'm actually standing outside your house right now, and I noticed some potential vulnerabilities in your setup. Your alarm system is at least 5 years old, and your door locks are standard residential grade. With the kind of assets you have, you might want to consider an upgrade. There was a pause. I could practically hear his ego wrestling with his paranoia. How do you know what kind of alarm system I have? It's my business to know, sir. The control panel's visible through your front window, and I can see the sensor placements from here. Like I said, it's adequate for most homes, but someone with your profile might want something more robust. Another pause. I'm not home right now. No problem. I can do a basic assessment from the outside and email you a proposal. If you're interested, we can schedule a proper walkthrough later. Fine, but make it quick. I spent 15 minutes walking around his property, taking notes and photos like a legitimate security consultant. The house was impressive, but not impenetrable. Standard alarm system, basic door locks, and a back deck that would be easy to access from the beach below. More importantly, I could see into several rooms through the floor-to-ceiling windows. The master bedroom was on the second floor, with a clear view of the king-size bed where he was probably screwing my wife. That evening, I emailed Aiden a professional-looking security proposal, complete with cost estimates and installation timelines. I also included several subtle references to the importance of protecting one's personal relationships from unwanted scrutiny. He called the next morning. Your proposal is interesting, he said, but your prices are steep. Quality costs money, Mr. Blackwood, but I think you'll find the investment worthwhile, especially given your situation. What situation? Well, sir, a man in your position, successful, attractive, with a high social profile, you must have people who'd love to find dirt on you. Ex-business partners, jealous competitors, maybe even angry husbands. The silence stretched for 10 seconds. Are you threatening me, Morrison? Not at all, sir. Just pointing out that privacy is valuable. My security systems don't just keep burglars out, they keep secrets in. Another pause. When he spoke again, his voice was carefully controlled. I'll consider your proposal. Take your time, but don't wait too long. You never know who might be watching. I hung up before he could respond, the tension still thick in the air. My mind raced with the possibilities of what could unfold next. That afternoon, my phone rang again. The number was unknown. Morrison Security, I answered, my voice steady. Is this Jake Morrison? The voice on the other end was female, and she sounded nervous, almost hesitant. Speaking, I replied, trying to keep my calm. My name is Jessica Chen. I work at TechFlow Solutions with your wife. My pulse quickened. What can I do for you, Jessica? There was a brief pause before she spoke again, her voice quieter now. This is awkward, but I think you should know what people are saying around the office. I'm listening, I said, my curiosity piqued. It's about Erin and that client she's been working with, Aiden Blackwood. People are talking, and it's getting ugly. Some of the other managers are starting to ask questions about her expense reports and the time she's been spending on his account. My mind immediately began to race. What kind of questions? Expensive dinners that weren't pre-approved. Hotel stays that don't match any client meetings on the calendar. She's been sloppy, Mr. Morrison. Really sloppy. This was better than I'd hoped. I leaned back in my chair, the pieces of the puzzle falling into place. Why are you telling me this? Because I like Erin, but what she's doing isn't fair to you or to her career. She's going to get fired if she keeps this up, and the whole company is going to suffer from the scandal. I considered her words carefully. She wasn't just talking about an affair. She was talking about potential criminal activity. I appreciate you calling, Jessica. Can I ask you to do me a favor? Depends what it is, she replied cautiously. Keep track of anything else you hear. Dates, times, specific incidents. I might need documentation if things get worse. You're going to confront her? Her voice had a slight edge now, as if trying to gauge how far this was going to go. I'm going to protect my family, whatever that takes. The words came out colder than I expected, but I meant them. Understood, Jessica replied, and there was a finality in her voice as she hung up. I sat back in my chair, feeling a sense of satisfaction I hadn't known in weeks. For the first time in a long while, a real smile spread across my face. Erin wasn't just cheating on me, she was stealing from her company to fund her affair. That was a felony, and now I had leverage I hadn't expected. This wasn't just about me anymore, it was about everything she stood to lose, and I had all the tools I needed to make sure she paid for it. My phone buzzed with a text from Erin. Working late again tonight, don't wait up. I texted back, no problem, love you. Let her think everything was normal. Let both of them think they were smarter than the boring husband who fixed alarm systems for a living. They were about to learn how wrong they were. That night, I drove past Aiden's house and saw Erin's Honda in the driveway next to his Tesla. I took photos with a telephoto lens, making sure to capture the license plates and timestamps. Then I went home and started planning phase 2 of their destruction. The confrontation I'd been dreading came on a Thursday morning. I was in my office reviewing the security footage from a client's warehouse when Sophie walked in without knocking. She looked terrible. Dark circles under her eyes, her usually perfect hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. My daughter had inherited her mother's beauty, but right now she just looked young and scared. Dad, we need to talk. I minimized the video window and gave her my full attention. What's going on? It's about Mom and everything. She sat down heavily in the chair across from my desk, the same chair where clients usually sat when they needed my help. The irony wasn't lost on me. I know you know, she said quietly, about Mom and that guy. Sophie, please don't lie to me anymore. I can't handle any more lies. Her voice cracked. Everyone at school is talking about it. Emma's mom saw them at the Riverside Hotel last week. They weren't being careful. The Riverside Hotel, where we'd had our wedding reception 18 years ago. I'm sorry you're dealing with this, I said. Are you going to divorce her? The question hit me like a punch. I don't know yet. Good. The venom in her voice surprised me. She deserves it. She's been lying to both of us, Dad, making us look like idiots. Sophie, she's still your mother. Is she? Because mothers don't abandon their families for some rich asshole with a fancy car. Tears started flowing down her cheeks. I defended her, Dad. When kids at school started making jokes, I defended her. I said they were wrong, that my mom would never do that. I came around the desk and put my arms around her. She collapsed against me, sobbing. I hate her, she whispered. I hate what she's done to us. No, you don't. You hate what she's doing. There's a difference. What are you going to do? I'm going to handle it. She pulled back and looked at me with eyes that suddenly seemed much older than 17. Don't let them get away with it, Dad. Please. Everyone's watching to see if you're going to fight back or just roll over like a coward. I'm not a coward. I know, but they don't. They think you're weak because you're not rich like him. Prove them wrong. After Sophie left, I sat alone in my office, staring at the wall covered with certificates and photos from my army days. She was right. Everyone was watching to see what Jake Morrison would do when his wife publicly humiliated him. Time to show them. I called Ray. It's time. What do you need? Remember that favor you owe me from Kandahar? I'll never forget it. What's the plan? Meet me at Murphy's tonight. Bring your camera equipment. Murphy's pub was the kind of place where working-class guys went to drink beer and complain about their lives. It was also directly across the street from Marino's, the upscale restaurant where Erin and Aiden had their romantic dinners. Ray was waiting in a corner booth when I arrived, a camera bag at his feet. You sure about this? He asked as I sat down. They've been flaunting it for months. Time to return the favor. At 7:30, right on schedule, Aiden's Tesla pulled up in front of Marino's. He got out first, then walked around to open the passenger door for Erin. She was wearing the red dress I'd bought her for our anniversary last year. Jesus, Ray muttered, adjusting his telephoto lens. She's really making a statement, isn't she? I watched them walk into the restaurant, his hand on the small of her back, her face bright with laughter. They looked like a couple celebrating an anniversary. Get everything, I told Ray. I want documentation of every moment. For the next 2 hours, we documented their evening. Ray's military training had included surveillance and reconnaissance, and his photos were professional quality. Erin and Aiden holding hands across the table, sharing dessert, him reaching across to brush a strand of hair from her face. At 9:45, they came out of the restaurant. Instead of heading to their separate cars, they walked to Aiden's Tesla together. Follow them, I said. We tailed them at a distance as they drove to Harbor View Estates. The Tesla pulled into Aiden's driveway, and both of them got out. Ray got photos of them walking to the front door, Aiden's arm around Erin's waist. The lights in the master bedroom came on 20 minutes later. That's enough, I said. I've seen enough. What now? Now we destroy them. The next morning I created a private Facebook group called Morrison Family Friends and invited everyone I could think of. Erin's co-workers, Sophie's teachers, our neighbors, members of our church, even some of Aiden's social circle. The group description was simple, a place to share updates and support during difficult times. Then I uploaded the photos. Not all of them. I wasn't trying to create pornography, just the most damning ones with timestamps and locations clearly visible. Erin and Aiden holding hands at dinner, kissing in the parking lot, walking into his house together. The caption read, "After 18 years of marriage, I thought my wife Erin Morrison was working late and traveling for business. Turns out she was building a different kind of partnership with Aiden Blackwood. These photos were taken last night while she was supposed to be at a client dinner. I thought our friends and family should know the truth about what's been happening." The response was immediate and explosive. Within an hour, the group had 50 members and dozens of comments. Erin's co-workers were expressing shock and outrage. Our neighbors were offering support and sharing their own suspicions. Even some of Aiden's friends were commenting, apparently unaware of his relationship status. My phone started ringing at 10 a.m. Erin. "What the hell did you do?" she screamed. "I told the truth. You posted private photos on the internet. That's illegal." They were taken in public places. No expectation of privacy. "Jake, you need to take those down right now." "Or what?" "Or I'll call the police." "Go ahead. While you're at it, maybe you should explain to them why you've been using company funds to pay for your dates with your boyfriend." Silence. "That's right, Erin. I know about the expense reports, the hotel rooms that don't match any client meetings, the dinners you've been charging to the company. How do you think your boss is going to react when he finds out you've been embezzling to finance your affair?" "I haven't embezzled anything." "Jessica Chen might disagree. So might the IRS when I send them copies of your falsified expense reports." "You bastard. I'm not the one who broke our marriage vows." She hung up. 30 minutes later, my phone rang again. This time, it was Aiden. "Morrison, you son of a bastard. Take those photos down now." "I don't think I will." "You're going to regret this. I have lawyers. And I have more photos, including some from last weekend when you two were at the Riverside Hotel. You know, the place where Erin and I got married. You're insane. I'm thorough. It's what made me good at my job in Afghanistan, and it's what makes me good at my job now. This isn't Afghanistan. No, it's not. In Afghanistan, when someone betrayed their unit, we handled it quickly and quietly. Here, I have to be more creative. Are you threatening me? I'm telling you now. You messed with my family, and now I'm going to tear your life apart, piece by piece. The photos are just the start. I hung up and immediately called Jessica Chen. Jessica, it's Jake Morrison. Are you still willing to help me document my wife's expense report irregularities? After seeing those photos? Absolutely. That woman has been stealing from our company to finance her affair. I'll have a full report to you by tomorrow morning. I appreciate it. Mr. Morrison? For what it's worth, I think you're handling this exactly right. She made her choice. Now she gets to live with the consequences. The Facebook group had grown to over 100 members by noon. The comments were brutal. I always knew there was something off about her, wrote Mrs. Bell. Poor Jake. He deserves so much better, said one of Sophie's teachers. Aiden Blackwood is a predator. He did the same thing to his ex-wife in Boston, commented someone I didn't recognize. That last comment caught my attention. I sent the person a private message asking for details. The response came an hour later. My sister worked with his ex-wife. He cheated on her throughout their marriage, then left her broke when he moved here. She had to declare bankruptcy. More ammunition. By evening, the story had spread beyond Facebook. Someone had shared the photos on Instagram and Twitter. The local newspaper's gossip columnist had picked it up. Erin's affair was becoming public knowledge throughout the city. Sophie came home from school grinning. Dad, you're a legend. Everyone's talking about how you exposed Mom and her boyfriend. Emma said her mom called you a hero for standing up for yourself. I'm not a hero, Sophie. I'm just a man who got tired of being made a fool. Well, you're my hero. And Mom's been calling me all day, crying and begging me to talk to you. What did you tell her? I told her she should have thought about the consequences before she decided to cheat on her family. That night, I sat on my porch with a beer, watching the sunset and feeling something I hadn't felt in months. Satisfaction. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This isn't over, Morrison. You have no idea who you're dealing with. I texted back, neither do you. The war was just beginning. 3 days after the Facebook photos went viral, I got a call that changed everything. Mr. Morrison, this is Detective Sarah Walsh with the city police. A chill ran through me. Had I pushed too far? Crossed some legal line I wasn't aware of? What can I do for you, Detective? I'd like to speak with you about Aiden Blackwood. Are you available to come down to the station? Am I under arrest? No, sir. We just have some questions. An hour later, I was sitting in an interview room that smelled like stale coffee and desperation. Detective Walsh was younger than I'd expected, maybe 35, with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense attitude. Mr. Morrison, are you familiar with a woman named Jennifer Reeves? Never heard of her. She's Aiden Blackwood's ex-wife from Boston. She contacted us yesterday after seeing the photos you posted online. I stayed quiet, letting her continue. Ms. Reeves has some interesting information about Mr. Blackwood's business practices. It seems he has a pattern of targeting married women with access to company funds or family assets. I'm not following. Your wife works for a tech company with access to client accounts and financial information. Ms. Reeves worked for a private equity firm. Blackwood's ex-girlfriend before that was a bank manager. The pieces started clicking together. He's running some kind of con. We think so. Ms. Reeves lost over $200,000 to him before she realized what was happening. He convinced her to make some temporary investments in his business ventures. The money disappeared, and so did he. What does this have to do with me? We'd like your help. You've been documenting his relationship with your wife, and you seem to have access to information about their activities. We're building a case, but we need more evidence. I leaned back in my chair, processing this new information. Aiden wasn't just a homewrecker. He was a criminal. And Erin might be his next victim, or his accomplice. What kind of help do you need? Keep doing what you're doing. Document everything. If your wife gives him access to her company's systems or accounts, we need to know immediately. And in exchange? In exchange, when we arrest him, your wife might avoid criminal charges if she cooperates. I thought about Erin, probably sitting in her office right now, wondering if her lover was everything he claimed to be. Part of me wanted to warn her. The larger part wanted to watch her world burn. I'll help, I said. But I want immunity for anything I've done in the course of investigating this. Done. That evening, I called an emergency meeting with Ray and Sophie. We gathered in my office, the door locked and the blinds drawn. The police think Aiden is running a long con, I explained. He targets women with access to money or financial systems, seduces them, then disappears with whatever he can steal. Holy shit, Sophie breathed. Mom's not just cheating, she's being scammed. Maybe, or maybe she's in on it. Either way, we need to be careful. What's the plan? Ray asked. We keep gathering evidence, but now we're working with the police. This isn't just about revenge anymore. It's about stopping a criminal. And Mom? I looked at my daughter, seeing the hope and fear warring in her eyes. She wanted to believe her mother was a victim, not a willing participant in fraud. We'll find out soon enough. The next morning, I installed additional security cameras around our house and upgraded our alarm system. If Erin was planning to steal financial information or documents, I wanted everything recorded. I also started monitoring her computer activity more closely. The software I'd installed months ago was still running, logging every website she visited and every email she sent. What I found made my stomach turn. Erin had been accessing client files she had no business looking at. Bank account information, investment portfolios, social security numbers. She'd downloaded dozens of files to encrypted drives. She wasn't Aiden's victim. She was his partner. I called Detective Walsh immediately. We need to meet. I have evidence that my wife is actively participating in identity theft and financial fraud. How soon can you get here? I'm on my way. At the police station, I turned over everything. The downloaded files, the encrypted drives I'd found hidden in Erin's closet, bank records showing suspicious transfers to accounts in Aiden's name. This is enough for arrest warrants, Detective Walsh said after reviewing the evidence. We'll move tomorrow morning. What about my wife? She's looking at federal charges. Wire fraud, identity theft, conspiracy. She's going to prison, Mr. Morrison. I should have felt satisfaction. Instead, I just felt empty. That night, Erin came home late, as usual. She'd been staying at Aiden's house most nights, but she still kept clothes and personal items at our house. We need to talk, I said when she walked into the kitchen. She looked exhausted, older than her 38 years. The stress of maintaining her double life was taking its toll. Jake, I know you're angry. Angry doesn't begin to cover it, but that's not what this is about. Then what? It's about the federal crimes you've been committing with your boyfriend. Her face went white. I don't know what you're talking about. Identity theft, wire fraud, conspiracy to commit financial crimes. The FBI has enough evidence to put you away for 20 years. You're bluffing. I pulled out my phone and showed her photos of the encrypted drives, the downloaded client files, the bank transfers. The police will be here tomorrow morning with a warrant. You have one chance to save yourself. What do you want? I want you to cooperate with the investigation. Tell them everything about Aiden's operation. Help them build a case against him. And if I do? Detective Walsh says they might offer you a plea deal. Reduced charges, maybe probation instead of prison. Erin sank into a chair, her hands shaking. How did this happen? How did I get here? You made choices, Erin. Bad choices. Now you get to live with the consequences. I loved him, Jake. I really thought he loved me. He's a con man. He never loved you. He was using you to steal money and identities. I know that now. Tears started flowing down her cheeks. God, I'm such an idiot. Yes, you are, but you're also Sophie's mother, and despite everything, I don't want to see you go to prison. Why are you helping me? I'm not helping you, I'm helping my daughter. She's been through enough without watching her mother get arrested on the evening news. The next morning, I watched from my office window as police cars surrounded Aiden's house. He tried to run, actually tried to escape through his backyard, but the cops were waiting. The local news had the story by noon. Local entrepreneur arrested in multi-state fraud scheme. Erin turned herself in that afternoon, accompanied by a lawyer I'd helped her find. She'd agreed to cooperate fully with the investigation in exchange for reduced charges. The trial made national news. Aiden Blackwood, whose real name was Adrian Beckwith, had been running variations of the same con for over a decade. He'd stolen millions from women across the country, leaving a trail of broken marriages and ruined lives. Erin testified against him, detailing how he'd recruited her, convinced her to steal client information, and promised her a future together once they had enough money to disappear. He got 25 years in federal prison. She got 3 years probation and community service. Sophie and I attended every day of the trial, sitting in the front row where Erin could see us. I wanted her to remember what she'd thrown away for a fantasy. After it was over, Erin came to the house one last time to collect her belongings. The divorce papers had been finalized the week before. I'm moving to Portland, she said, packing the last of her clothes. My sister said I can stay with her until I figure things out. Probably for the best. Jake, I know you'll probably never forgive me, but I want you to know how sorry I am. Not just for the cheating, but for everything. For making you feel like you weren't enough. For embarrassing Sophie. For throwing away 18 years of marriage for a lie. I know you are. Do you think, someday, we might be able to be friends, for Sophie's sake? I thought about it for a long moment. Maybe, someday, when the hurt isn't so fresh. She nodded and headed for the door, then stopped. For what it's worth, you were never boring, Jake. You were steady and reliable and good. I was just too stupid to appreciate it. After she left, Sophie and I sat on the porch, watching the sunset. Do you miss her? She asked. I miss who I thought she was. I miss the woman I married. But that person was gone long before she moved out. Are you going to be okay? We're going to be okay, both of us. Good. Because I'm proud of you, Dad. You didn't just roll over when they tried to destroy you. You fought back. Sometimes that's all you can do. 6 months later, I got a call from Detective Walsh. Morrison? Thought you'd want to know. We just arrested 2 more people in connection with Blackwood's operation. Turns out your wife wasn't his only inside person. Anyone I know? Catherine Walsh, your wife's friend, the lawyer. I almost dropped the phone. Kat? She was recruiting targets for him, identifying wealthy women with access to money or information. Your wife wasn't randomly selected. She was specifically targeted because Walsh told Blackwood about her job and her marriage problems. Marriage problems. According to the evidence, Walsh had been feeding Blackwood information about unhappy wives for years. She'd identify potential targets, then introduce them to him at social events. The pieces fell into place. Kat's comments at the charity gala, her knowledge of the affair before I did, her suggestions about divorce lawyers. She hadn't been trying to help me. She'd been covering her tracks. She's looking at federal conspiracy charges, Detective Walsh continued. Thought you'd want to know that the woman who pretended to be your friend was actually one of the people who destroyed your marriage. After I hung up, I sat in my office for a long time, thinking about betrayal and justice and the strange ways life sometimes comes full circle. Erin had been a victim as much as a perpetrator, manipulated by people she trusted. It didn't excuse her choices, but it explained them. Kat, on the other hand, had orchestrated everything. She'd identified Erin as a target, introduced her to Aiden, then sat back and watched our family implode while pretending to be concerned. Some betrayals cut deeper than others. That evening, I called Sophie at college. She'd started her freshman year at State in the fall, studying criminal justice. And though I tried to keep things light, I could hear the uncertainty in her voice whenever we spoke about anything that involved the past. "Dad, I was just thinking about calling you." "How are things?" she asked, her tone excited but tinged with concern, as though she could sense something had changed. "Good. Quiet," I said, keeping it short but deliberate. "I wanted to tell you about Kat." I filled her in on the arrest, the conspiracy charges, everything that had unfolded. The weight of it all still felt heavy, but I was learning how to carry it, learning to speak about it without letting it break me. "Jesus, Dad, she was Mom's best friend," Sophie said, disbelief in her voice. I could almost see her shaking her head, struggling to understand how things had gone so wrong. "Some friends aren't worth having," I replied bluntly, trying to keep my voice steady. The bitterness still hung on my words, but I had no time to sugarcoat it. Kat had crossed a line that I couldn't ignore. "Are you okay? I know you trusted her too," Sophie asked, her voice softening, like she was afraid the question might open a wound too deep to heal. "I'm fine, sweetheart," I said, my voice firm, but I knew I wasn't just fine. "Actually, I'm better than fine. I'm free." "Free?" she echoed, the confusion evident, though I could hear the hope in her voice too. "Free of all the people who were lying to me," I explained, the weight of the words feeling lighter as I said them aloud. "Free of the anger and the hurt, free to build whatever comes next." "What comes next?" she asked, her voice curious and a little uncertain, like she wasn't sure what to expect from me. I looked around my office, my eyes lingering on the framed certificates on the wall, the photos of my army days, and the business I'd built from the ground up. There was pride in it, but more than that, there was clarity. I had a life, one that I'd fought for and earned, and now I was ready to shape the next phase of it. "I'm thinking about expanding the business," I said, the idea taking root more firmly with each passing second. "Maybe hiring some help. Ray's been after me to bring him on as a partner." "That sounds great, Dad," she replied, her enthusiasm rising. I could almost see her smiling on the other end of the line, a weight lifting from her shoulders. "What about you?" I asked, shifting the focus back to her. "How are classes going?" "Amazing," she said, her voice lighting up. "I love it here. And Dad?" There was a pause, and then the words I didn't know I needed to hear came. "I'm proud of you. For everything. For fighting back. For protecting yourself. For not letting them destroy you." I could feel the lump form in my throat. It was a mixture of relief and gratitude, emotions I hadn't fully processed until that moment. "Thanks, sweetheart. That means everything to me." After we hung up, I walked out onto the porch, needing some air, needing to just think. I looked at the light I'd been fixing the morning I discovered Erin's affair. It was working perfectly now, casting a warm, soft glow over the front yard. Sometimes the simplest repairs take the longest to complete, and sometimes it takes years to fix something that's broken beyond repair. But I was fixing it. I was fixing myself. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Mr. Morrison, this is Jennifer Reeves, Aiden's ex-wife. I wanted to thank you for helping the police build their case. Because of your evidence, I'm getting some of my money back. You're a hero." I smiled and texted back, "Just a man who got tired of being made a fool. Glad I could help." Another text came in, this one from Ray. "Beer, I've got news about the business partnership." "On my way," I replied, my tone shifting into something a little lighter, more hopeful. I locked up the house and headed for Murphy's Pub, where this whole story had really begun. It was the place where Ray and I had documented Erin's betrayal, where I had first seen the truth that would set everything in motion. The night that everything changed. The fool's revenge was complete, but more importantly, the fool was gone, replaced by someone stronger, wiser, and impossible to underestimate. The lessons I'd learned had hardened me, but they had also given me something invaluable: the ability to choose how I responded to the world. Some lessons can only be learned the hard way. They're the kind of lessons you can't unlearn once you've been through them. And once you learn them, no one can ever teach them to you again. I wasn't the same man I had been before, and that was exactly the point. I was no longer the fool. I was in control, and no one was going to take that away from me.